Yeah, because of YouTube jail, and then having to hold back on doing stuff. So I'm doing this now because in about 4 days, to upload it. So it's been kind of good. Got a chance to give a little thought to some things. So one of the things I was thinking about, I was just looking at this one building. I might as well show you. You guys will probably say like, oh, that's, pretty typical, not very good looking, kind of building of the time. But it's like one of these things, like I was thinking, okay, so say like right there in that center there, see, if there was like facades up top, I think they're facades is what I want to call them. I don't think that's right. But then there was like awning, and that you actually had people encouraged to have, like they had like an awning and then you could hang plants. Like just that addition, because that's the morning side, like when the at dawn, that's what's facing eastward. It'll be, and it's there's just a lot of little things. I'm like, oh, one of the things that actually was a little disappointing that I noticed was that, okay, say here. Now that most likely is not a standable balcony. Most likely that is just some space that it goes in, and that you have these windows that that the rain wouldn't fall, doesn't fall in that space, I guess. So you could have the window open, but then there's like, say, yeah, and then there's parking garages. So you have, so the parking garages, so here's the weirdest part. Parking garages, if you're a car, you're out of the rain. If you're people trying to enjoy things, a place has to install an awning, and the awnings usually are not like, they're the cloth awnings, the metal frame and cloth awning. Like, it's, there's only a handful of places that it took a long time for them to actually put kind of the wood frame anchored into the ground, like holding up a relatively permanent, like metal awning, something like that. Now, and so then this idea, so balconies, verandas, and awnings is something I was like, it would seem like this would develop somewhat organically in an area like this, that you would want a building that fundamentally starts, and so there are a lot of houses here like this, oddly enough. They'll have these huge wraparound balconies. They're from like a way older time. And then they taper upward, which makes sense. It's not like they get larger upward, but like a cone. But they would taper upward. Like, so here's a very typical kind of awning you'll see a lot, where it's just that kind of flat deal there. And those only have so much of a lifespan. Then there's some other kinds that I could show you that you'll see more what I mean by, like, so yeah, see, like, this begs for, like, this could have had balcony. There could have been balcony, veranda, something more going on here. So, but whatever it was designed for is whatever it was designed for. But I've been really thinking about this a lot. It seems like the next generation of buildings, there's going to have to be some kind of understanding by building developers. This building is probably going to end up being a number of different things over time. If we build it to stand the test of time, will it stay useful? Because now we're seeing that in all these major cities. That we're seeing these buildings that, their market value is just dropping through the floor. But the issue comes down to, but these are very, very good buildings. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that the present market value for them is low because nobody can get the kind of credit to start a business that could fill in, So here's this is, a bar, great, great balcony, great veranda, like a great, and one of the most historically, like, well-known in town for having, like, a place that you could be outside in the rain. You could see along this, lots of flat kind of not verandas, awnings. You could see some of the awnings down this way, but it took like time for places to come up with that. Like, that place was built like that a long time ago as a cafe, I believe. But this idea that you would say have multi-story buildings, that you would have people able to sit up on a balcony and see people below and be undercover, so that people could people watch from someplace and not at the ground level, and mainly not at the ground level because of the nature of the Northwest and the rain and the muck, and also that and that when vehicles drive through the rain, they make a lot of noise at the ground level. So you'd want to be up some stories so that you're over the din of the vehicles driving on either wet pavement or driving on wet hard scrabble, which would be that's loud. You have to yell over it if you're at the ground floor. So these are just some things. So I was thinking about these little touches that wisdom. It's wisdom that tells us about these little touches that make the quality of things and why things are the way they are sometimes. That's what informs us of it. And so I started thinking about, like, because the Claudine Gay scandal, and then people have been looking out for kind of the apologetics for what she did wasn't so wrong, or people are criticizing her for totally other reasons, which of course is what's going to be said. A thing I started considering was, it's like, no, this is this thing that nobody can get around anymore, and they know exactly what it is that the Harvard president scandal really comes down to, it's the loss of quality. That now we're seeing it with reports of how teachers are really doing. That now we've had multi-generations, and it's just a general loss of quality in society, like Aaron Clarey is saying, enjoy the decline, and that he's like, we're just becoming worse and worse people. And it's just a thing that countries go through, and it is true. It really is. It's a thing that countries go through. That it just has its ups and its downs. We're at a real down point, and so some I was like thinking about is that's now there has to be kind of an admission of that. Sort of taking that and being like, things aren't good. And we can't even have the news. We can't have the White House. We can't have almost anybody say things aren't good. Nobody will admit it. The teachers are not good at what they do. The Department of Education has failed to do what it was set up to do best. And then it comes down to Barack Obama wasn't that good. Robin Hood, not that good. Rap music over about the last 20 years, not that good. Just a lot of people to start needing to deal with. It's not that good. And because there is bad art. People make things, doesn't come out exactly the way somebody wants. Don't want to pay for it because it's not that good. And everyone's just got to start dealing with it. Would be focus on the little details that wisdom has taught us. Make things, quote unquote, good. And do it. Because we just don't do that anymore. And now we're starting to see this with the language arts. We're starting to see this with the law. That's a fascinating one, is with the law. to just people just coming up with kind of however they think the law should work, and then it's a matter of if they could find a judge who will let the law, like, yeah, that sounds legal. I like, that's the part I like. There's like just some judge someplace, yeah, that sounds legal. And so that's where we're at. And the beautiful part is that there's now, because of the money that individuals have, that's weird, people can leave. People could go to other places, and they have. Now the numbers, the new census numbers have come out, and they're saying that, this is one of those stages, in American history that the coast is being abandoned. And it's going to be an interesting 2024, because there is no way over about the next 15 years, if such migration patterns even settle into place, that you're going to see the Democrats able to dominate government by election. They'll have to rig it hard, real crazy hard. Yeah, they'll have to rig it real crazy hard, because now there's too much of an issue of too many people have moved to Texas and Florida. Too many people have left California, and so the apportionment of representatives, if I remember right, is going to change. And so there's going to be a reapportionment, and the Democrats are desperate. They have real problems with this. And then they also have real problems with Senate issues and defectors. It is very rare that someone leaves the Republican Party to become a Democrat. That's very, very rare. It's much, much more common that people stop voting Democratic Party and vote Republican. And now the Republicans are starting to see that a very staunchly fair play nationalism is what they're looking for, and that they really don't need to do anything crazy. Like Lindsey Graham, of course, keeps chucking bombs and everything, and now it really comes down to that a lot of these cats in the party, they have to dare to say something about him doing stuff like that all the time, like and just really just make it kind of funny. Just make fun of him. It's Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's getting butch. Something like that. And just give him a good ribbing all the time, because he's just such an asshole, and he keeps proving to be this strange, duplicitous character. Why is it always guys who come across like like the anime character, like the bad guy in all these movies? Oh yes, you didn't understand my grand plan. And you're just like, yeah, bet it has something to do with anal. I'm betting that's a part of the grand plan. So the thing that was really hit me with like Black Americana is that there's a handful of singers and groups that have come out over about the last 15 years, and they're usually kind of these niche scenes of like throwback funk, throwback soul, throwback R&B. But it's always treated as kind of throwback, and it's usually kind of like a white college thing, and major city thing, and it doesn't really like seem to get quite the same. Well, it just doesn't get the same spread as what this kind of weird new industrial music of a lesser Black Americana, and it's bad music. There's just no way around it, and long since no way around it anymore. But then, you'll have somebody like Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings and Binky Griptite, who bring back funk in a way that nobody even knows their names, but doesn't know why there's so much funk music that suddenly came out. And incredible Afrobeat. They have no idea that there's this bunch of people in New York who went backwards in time and brought back the old sound and played it in the old-fashioned way, and that it brought Blue-Eyed Soul characters out. And with this whole, and the thing that upsets me now is how during this time where Black American music is so poorly done, so much about Black Americana is kind of like is just a very expensive scuffed sneaker, that I'm sitting back like, and then on top of it, you all are kind of doing this thing like nobody's ever been on your side. You're all alone with the man trying to take your music and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting back like, when you guys don't even know almost anything. I mean, you obviously are people who've gone out of your way to not actually know the music or the cultures you're talking about. Like, you hear people like, was it all the pro-black dudes, like Umar and them, and you're just sitting back and you're like, what is happening here? A good portion of this is bullshit. A bunch of it is sort of like this hash of history that's not exactly, that's far from accurate. What is happening? And because the quote unquote black intellectual is this person that is kind of this preposterous figure. And that, and that, thank goodness there's Thomas Sowell's around, so that people can actually hear like what rational thought is like. So yeah, it's just the little details of things. Here's a building that, this, when I look at this, I'm like, yeah, this looks like something that it probably was something like a bank. It's now an apothecary and other things. But let me show you. I mean, I like the brightness. There's a good base on it. It looks like the kind of thing that you can do more to the building if you need to accommodate it being changed into having another use one day. And and it attracts, it's interesting to the eye. It's somewhat interesting. Just some thoughts I was thinking about. There's an aspect of the beautiful in Americana that is really dying, and it really is like that the artist class is really trying to kill beauty. There's also a certain level of not so much the elites, but I mean, really, it's like kind of a, here's something I wanted to make sure I got on. Let me make sure I say this. So I was watching where wisdom informs us. I was watching Cenk Uygur debate Douglas Murray. And there's things that I realized, I'm like, Cenk, you aren't confronting the idea of power in that region the way they think of it and what they do to have power for generations, which is usually invested in families and tribes and clans. So one of the things that he kind of didn't get, why is nobody helping the Palestinians? It's a very, very, very important question. Why won't anyone help them? Despite the whole idea of them, doing this or doing that, and these, they were in Jordan and then they did this. They were in Syria and then they did this. So when they're in other people's countries, they're shit disturbers. And dangerous shit disturbers. They try to overthrow the government. where it's them, and they plan to rule everyone. The Palestinians will try to take over your government and rule all you Jordanians, will rule all you Syrians. That like, yeah. I don't think people are, one, seeing that. They're not following, they're not seeing what a group did that was a negative, and following the logic of, now, had they been successful, what would have come of this? So, then beyond that, I was like, okay, so because power there has a lot to do with families and family ties and things like that, Cenk, I don't think you're being, either you don't know or you're just not thinking this through, that this has obviously to do with who these power brokers and who these people are in Hamas. How rich are these guys? Like, if you start admitting who these guys are and how they really behave, this is actually easier to deal with, because there's nothing about this region of the world that violence, paramilitaries, having a clan that can fight another clan. The Middle East has a different way of dealing with power that's a little more open and honest than us. We don't send our boys out to beat up some other niggas and then be like, now we're taking your town, but in the Middle East, they'll take each other's towns, and it's a family thing. It's a tribal thing. And so Cenk wasn't being really honest, or just not being, he didn't understand or something, that this also has to do with a lot of these various power brokers that are like, okay, this powerful set of Palestinians who now are rich Hamas guys, you fucked with me, now you need me. Too bad. They're being told, too bad. Not even this idea of, oh, but the America, it's so powerful, I cannot help you, my brothers, And no, it's coming more across like that they're like, womp womp. Too bad. Like you knew one day this day would come when you needed the rest of the Ummah to help you. You needed all these surrounding nations to help you. And you did all these things in the past that we didn't like. And now, and so then the other part about this is, this starts to all become even more logical if there was supposed to be a three-front offensive. If there was supposed to be a three-front offensive, like Israel's insisting that was the idea, and that fundamentally some portion of the government just didn't believe it. And so if that's so, if because let's just throw that in there, that it was supposed to be a three-front assault. The other two fronts, those militias and stuff, they didn't do it. So Hamas is like, where's our backup? They weren't there, and that's bam. This then even makes it more like, okay, wait, where were these militias supposed to be? In the other neighboring nations, where Palestinians are not being absorbed into, and that they cause trouble in. So, could it be that these other militias were supposed to attack, and those countries stopped those militias from attacking? So Hamas went in alone, and now the Palestinians are screwed, and none of these countries around them are about it, because that's the part about it that's so funny, that's so weird, the reaction that none of these nations around them are, they're like, no, they're not even, there's no discussion whatsoever of taking them in. None. And so it's like, wait, so there were supposed to be these other militias coming in from those countries, and then they didn't. Huh. And so to me, I'm like, no, a big part of this is probably very powerful people, money and stuff like that, and they're like, these Hamas upstarts are going to get theirs, and that's what I'm thinking is happening, and that Cenk doesn't really understand that, or that Cenk doesn't want to understand that, which I mean is understandable in a way, like, because the morality of it's kind of oof. So, all right, later.